from middle of the wheel hub to bottom of the fender flare, we're right at 20 inches. About 21 even. Passenger side, middle of the wheel hub to bottom of the fender flare, we're 21. And in the front we are 21 and a half. All right, howdy y'all, Josh at First Gen Off-Road again. Do me a favor, like this video. If you subscribe, you'll get every video I make. And if you comment, I do my best to answer every comment. So yeah, this is part, I guess, 3 on the series of our 3rd Gen 4Runner here. And our last video, we did the front suspension. And as you guys recall, I got about 1.5 inches. I got one on the driver's side and 1.5 inches on the passenger side. And today we're going to do the rear suspension. So what we're going to do today is get rid of our factory spring with 240,000 miles on it. And we're going to replace it with this Dobinsons spring. This is the Dobinsons 137V. It's a variable rate or progressive spring. It's supposed to give about 2.5 inches. We'll see. And of course, when we do the spring, we'll have to do the shock. We'll get rid of our OE shock that is terrible to see. Oh, it's still... Yeah, you see what kind of rebound I'm getting out of that shock. So we're gonna get rid of it. And we're gonna put a Dobinsons IMS shock on it. So I'll go over this a little bit more, but the bottom line is Dobinsons IMS has linear valving. So on one extreme you have progressive valving, and that's like Fox and King, and that's really good for slow moving obstacles like rock crawling and things like that. They're super cushy. They may not be as great on the highway because they might offer a little more body roll, or imagine braking and you get a kind of a nosedive. And then on the other extreme you have digressive valving, and that's like Bilstein 6112s and 5100s and Icons. And that's great for like highway driving. It's great for high-speed washboard roads. It may not be as great for rock crawling. And you know, you can do both with both setups, right? This is linear valving. This kind of splits the difference. So for a daily driver that also wants to go off-road, I think a Dobinsons IMS shock or strut is a great choice. So we're gonna put these on and see how it looks and see how it handles. And the last thing we're gonna do is get rid of our little itty bitty rear sway bar link. And we're going to replace it with the same link that we put in the front of the truck. So it's quite a bit longer, and we'll see if it works. It's purely experimental, y'all. I guess we'll see. So we'll get rid of this, and we'll go with this. As usual, everything's for sale on the website. Click the link below, and it'll take you to the parts I'm using. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Chalk the tires. So the first thing I'm going to do before I even take the wheel off is take off the top nut on that sway bar link. This is a 12mm, and it helps to have a deep. On the bottom of the shock, it's a 17mm, and we want to go ahead and take that off. And there's a washer that you're going to hang on to. There's also a washer on the other side of this shock bushing that you're going to hang on to as well. So we'll put these someplace safe where you won't lose it. So the next thing I'm going to do is take that bottom shock mount off. So now I've got pressure and weight off this shock. I'm going to take my pry bar and pry this shock out. And you're probably going to mess up the bushings in the process, but that's okay. We don't need these bushings anymore. But we're going to keep this washer. We're going to reuse that. And then the next thing we want to do is go ahead and let that jack down and make some room to get that spring out. There we go. So spring's out, and we have this spring seat insulator here. So we have our spring out, and we have our lower shock mount out. The upper shock is still bolted in at the top there, and what you have to do is you have to come around and put a wrench on the other side of that and crawl into the truck and unbolt it. It's a 14 millimeter. And that job is terrible. If you hate yourself, just do it that way. What I'm gonna do is take a Sawzall and cut it off right under there. So, and I'm gonna come from this angle, right? So here's the side of the truck, there's the frame, and then here's the shock. And I'm gonna try and slip my blade right through there and cut it off about there. But here's the thing, the angle right now is not bad, or is pretty bad. So I'm gonna move this lower shock mount, and we're gonna make a little more room here. So I don't know if you're able to see that or not, or appreciate that. So there's one angle and there's the other angle. So we're gonna move this shock, we're gonna take it, and we're gonna zip tie it to this lower arm here. So we're gonna pull it all the way over here, we're gonna zip tie it, and that'll give us just enough room to slip a blade in there and cut that shock off. If you don't have a Sawzall, now would be a great time to get one. I like Milwaukee because it's a beast. This thing cuts through everything. This blade is old, it's worn out, but it's the only one I have right now, and I don't want to go to Home Depot and buy a new one, so I'm going to use it. If you've been thinking about buying a Sawzall, now's the time to get one. Every man should have a Sawzall. Don't cut your frame, and don't cut anything else. And then don't forget to reach back under there and pull that top bushing and nut out. Old driver's side spring, here's our new driver's side spring, and here's our passenger side spring. I'm just gonna measure these real quick. Driver's side spring is, it looks like 15 and about a half there. Passenger side spring is, is 15 and 3/4. Interesting. This spring is about 16 and 3/4. The other spring that I put in was 16 and a half. So I'm putting the taller spring on the driver's side because that's the side that has the lean, and that's the side with the battery, the gas tank, and the driver. 16 and 3/4. And the one on the passenger side I measured earlier was 16 and a half. Anyway, taller spring I'm putting on the driver's side. So we're going to try to make a little room between here, between the axle and the frame. And our options are either get some spring compressors and compress the new spring, or just get this bottle jack out from under the seat and just jack down the axle. So we've got the spring in. Now I'm just going to hold it in place and take this jack out. All right, old shock and new shock. So again, this is the Dobinsons IMS rear shock. There's that. And it comes with some bushings and some zip ties. One zip tie is going to go around here. We'll zip tie this boot in place, top and bottom. And we've got our boot in place there. And then you have top bushings and bottom bushings, which we have to put in when we install this shock. We cut the top of our shock off. Here's how they compare. The IMS shock is about 1 inch longer. So before you even install this rear shock, go ahead and take the top nut, the top washer, and the top bushing off. We saved the bolt and 2 washers. This washer that's got the bigger hole in it goes on first. Convex side is facing the axle. My bushing is not wanting to stay in, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put the bushing on now. And then we'll put the shock on now. And then we'll take our washer concave side towards the bushing and our bolt. Again, this is a 17. While I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and take the rest of the sway bar, this rear sway bar off. So this is 17. And you can get it started pretty easily. But after a while, this bracket right here, right there, will start to turn. And so when that happens, I'll show you what I do. So after monkeying around with this for a little bit, I decided that I'm tired of playing with it and I just want to cut it off. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got the bottom shock mount all bolted in. I've got it aligned to go into the top of the shock mount there. And so now what I'm going to do is get a floor jack and just jack up the rear axle and compress that bushing and bolt it in. So then I have the top bushing washer and nut, and I believe that this is a 17, so it's going to go, there's a little nub on this bushing, so it's going to go bushing, it's going to be the washer on top and the nut on top of that. And so yeah, you just kind of have to like crawl into there, put it in place and bolt it down. I think it helps to have a deep 17 like this, and also too a little ratchet that you can put an angle on. I think that really helps. Then we take the jack down slowly. So here's the old rear sway bar link, and here's the new extended link that we're going to put on. This rear link comes with this little, I guess it's like a retainer washer that we're not going to put on this one. This is how this extended link comes. I'm going to add this washer here, so it's going to look like this. We'll put the washer on, then we'll put it in place and put the lock washer and the nut on. So we have our new washer in place. And let's see if I can do this without blocking the camera view too much. We'll put the bushing on, the washer on. We'll take the nut and we'll just get this started. We're not going to really tighten this down, we're just going to get it started. And then we're also going to take the the 19 millimeter, this is the lock washer and the nut, and we'll just barely get that started too. So we want to get both of these just barely started, and then we want to go around to the other side and put the link on the other side as well. So we want to get them both barely started, and then we'll tighten everything down. So I've got them started on both sides, and now I can take two 14 millimeters and just tighten these down. And then once you've got the 14s bolted down on both sides, you can go back with your 19 and tighten that one down on both sides. Let's take the final measurement here. So this is middle of the wheel hub, the bottom of the fender flare. We're about 23 1/4 in the rear. And in the front, we are still at 21. On the passenger side, middle of the wheel hub, bottom of the fender flare, we are, wow, we're about 23 3/4, so half-inch difference there. And in the front, we are still at about, well, actually we've kind of evened out. We're about 21 1/4 now. Okay, so we put the linear valve Dobinsons IMS shocks on, and we paired it with the Dobinsons C59-137V. It's a variable rate or progressive rate spring. And we put some extended sway bar links on, and it performs great. So it's firmed up the ride. I wouldn't call it stiff or harsh, but it definitely is more firm than it was before. And it felt kind of like a boat before, so this is certainly an upgrade. We got about 23 1/4 inches on the driver's side and 23 3/4 inches on the passenger side. So we have about a half-inch driver's side lean in the rear and about a 1/4 inch in the front. So we're gonna have to address that. And we want to address it, and you guys want to subscribe and check out the next video, because next video we're gonna put these on. I don't know, you think they'll fit? So we'll talk more about these, and we'll put these on in the next video. You guys subscribe and you'll get to see it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see y'all out there.